We're all familiar, or many of us, with dementia, and often alluding to memory loss. But there is a rare form of dementia that has no certain cause or cure.
CBS 21's Chris Nallan has more on a form of dementia that often goes undiagnosed or even misdiagnosed.
Rob, Jasmine, we are familiar with dementia, often alluding to memory loss. Now, there is a rare form of dementia that has no certain cause or cure. Tonight, we go deeper with what experts know and what can be done to spread awareness.
You're walking around in a desert trying to figure out what's going on until you get that diagnosis.
It was a diagnosis that took 4 years after Jackie Damashek knew something was wrong with her husband Fred.
It was so subtle, you know, that you didn't really capture what was going on. And I'm a nurse, and yet he never had problems with his memory.
Frontal temporal dementia is a form of dementia that often goes misdiagnosed.
Patients will sometimes get missed and go for years being diagnosed with depression.
This was the case for Jackie and her husband Fred.
We went to the doctor, and the doctor treated him for depression for over 4 years. And I kept saying, he's not depressed, he's totally happy, he doesn't have any of the classic signs of depression.
Fred's condition was far from depression.
In FTD, the person begins to lose their judgment, and they have very little to no insight to the changes in themselves.
Claire Flaherty is a clinical neuropsychologist with Penn State Hershey, her key focus being frontal temporal dementia, or FTD.
You have changes in areas that are involved in initiative, motivation, and drive. And in concert with lack of insight, a person's personality begins to change.
It's the front part of the brain that consists of frontal and temporal lobes that begin to deteriorate or shrink. Gradually, this damage causes difficulties in thinking and behaviors normally controlled by these parts of the brain.
In terms of lack of insight, they have poor judgment. They begin to have difficulty with their finances.
And that was one change that began several other changes with Fred Damashek.
He ran a cruise business franchise, and he just was getting further and further in debt, and I found his credit cards, and his credit card debt was like $35,000.
Then came awkward behaviors.
He was approaching women, and I would say, why are you doing these things? And his response was very childlike. It would be, well, I told you I was sorry. Why are you so upset with me?
Jackie knew her husband, and she still knew something wasn't right. She wasn't giving up.
He had an assessment done, and within 15 minutes, that doctor, Dr. Anstott, came out and said he has frontal temporal dementia. 15 minutes after all those years of misdiagnosis.
Realizing nothing would ever be like it was.
He did well for a while because he had his memory.
Different from other forms of dementia.
They maintain their IQ even in the advanced stage, and they maintain their memory until very late in the condition.
Fred's memory hangs on, but his way of living, his speech and ability to walk and eat, compromised.
Staircasing downward, every 3 months you would have changes and more deterioration.
Fred passed away 2 years ago at the age of 73.
You really learn what love is all about as you go through this.
Jackie holds on to many fond memories of her and Fred and their loving family. Today, Jackie working to bring awareness and help others about a disease that remains a mystery.
If I can help anybody else that travels this, because you don't know any of the techniques, you don't know how to deal with this stuff.
Dr. Flaherty says there is no known cause for this. Some studies suggest head trauma could make one more vulnerable, along with a specific genetic makeup. Dr. Flaherty continues to research this disease. In the studio, Chris Nallan, CBS 21 News.